Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Angela Ning, the General Manager of IA Global London office. IA Global is a leading provider of the international student recruitment. Sorry, I just let some students in while I'm talking.
That's fun.
Right. Still some students just coming, I think.
It's a bit like with our classes. They start at 9 and students leave it until 9 o'clock to actually try to enter the virtual room.
That's a very common way while we have the online learning. And when we started, and the students just join in anytime actually. Right,
Wow.
okay. Today we are going to talk about how to become a lawyer in the UK with University of Law. It's our pleasure to have the key staffs from the University of Law to be our presenters today. We are having Anthony Gray, the senior lecturer. Hello.
Good morning.
Yeah, just a small greeting. And also we have Ron will join us with the Q&A section later as well. Just a little bit housekeeping before we can get started. Could you please all mute yourself during the webinar? If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the chat box. I will bring them up during the webinar, and we will also have some time for the Q&A at the end. We are on Facebook, of IAE Facebook Live right now, and also a recorded version of this webinar will be available later as well. Let me have a quick introduction about our company. IA Global started as a single office in Seoul, South Korea. Over the 29 years, IA Global has become one of the largest and the most diverse student recruitment organizations in the world. We have become an industry leader in the international student recruitment. The scale and the international reach of our network means we can offer recruitment experience in various of countries. It also means that we can have a very close relationship with and also better knowledge of the institutions that our students attended, like University of Law. So here is our London office contact details. Well, here, yeah, yes, it's coming out now. So please feel free to contact us after this webinar. And if you are outside of the UK, I will pass you our local office contact details to you. And yes, so please contact with us if you want to apply for the University of Law or if you have any questions about study in the UK. So now, without any further ado, I will turn the time over to Anthony. I will help you to play the slide.
Oh, thank you.
Here it is. Can you all see my screen?
That's great. Thank you. Thank you very much, Angela. So good morning, everybody. My name's Anthony Gray, and I'm a lecturer at the University of Law. I teach on the LPC, where I teach subjects such as business law, banking and debt finance, mergers and acquisitions, the GDL, the Graduate Diploma in Law, where I teach equity, and the LLB, where I teach business law as well. And my background is that I did my law degree at Cambridge, then went on to do the equivalent of what is now the legal practice course at the University of Law, which was then called the College of Law. And then I did my training with a firm called Watson, Farley and Williams, and I had about, I think, 2 years of post-qualification experience with them before I decided to switch firms, moving to Freshfields before joining the University of Law. And my background is essentially corporate finance work. Next slide, please. Okay, you probably know a lot about the University of Law already. It's been established since 1876. So we're one of the UK's longest established providers of legal education, with 16 campuses across the UK, as well as in Hong Kong. And we've trained more practicing lawyers in the UK than anyone else. We've got an excellent award-winning pro bono and work experience team who can give you access to, I think it's around 3,000 opportunities to work on real cases while you're studying. So a lot of opportunity for you to get practical experience. We've also got a very good, in fact, an expert legal careers and employability service, one of the largest legal careers services in the UK. And again, it's got a fabulous database providing access to various legal vacancies, and you have access to the service once you accept a place on a course with us. And employment statistics are also excellent. And then, yeah, in terms of alumni, we've got one of the largest, if not the largest, legal alumni group with over 70,000 members. And one of our more famous alumni is the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan. Next slide, please. So we also have strong links with firms nationally, regionally, and internationally, and that feeds into all of our courses. And in particular, we work with 90 of the top 100 firms in England and Wales. That gives rise to great pro bono opportunities. The firms come in and give talks on a weekly basis, and we have at least one law fair each year. Next slide, please. So I'm now going to talk a little bit about how to qualify as a lawyer, by which I mean as either a solicitor or a barrister. And a starting point would either to have a law degree. If you don't have a law degree, so you have a degree in another subject, a subject other than law, then you'll need to complete the conversion course, the Graduate Diploma in Law, or GDL. And that is, in essence, a 1-year full-time or 2-year part-time course. The reason you have to complete the GDL, whether you want to become a solicitor or barrister, clearly if you don't have a law degree, is that you are required to have studied 7 core foundation subjects in law, which are common to solicitors and barristers. And those subjects are crime, contract, tort, public law, equity, land, and certainly up to now, EU law. Okay. So in terms of becoming a solicitor, once you've done your law degree or non-law degree plus the conversion course, the GDL, or possibly the GDL MA law, then you would go on and do the legal practice course under the current route, the LPC, and that is a 1-year course, although we do have 6-month accelerated courses as well, and that's full-time, or a 2-year part-time course. And then once you've completed the legal practice course, you would do a 2-year training contract, at the end of which you would be admitted as a solicitor. And certainly in my role as a solicitor, like most solicitors, I was an employee, so I was salaried, and a lot of my work was transaction-based, and I worked with clients directly. I, for example, negotiated contracts for large companies to raise finance, for example, to acquire assets like shipped aircraft or to finance projects. I also did bond work, so raising finance through issuing bonds, IOUs. And I also did some work with public companies where they wanted to float, bring their shares to the market for the first time. So quite varied work there. My work did not really involve me going to the courts. It was mainly contract-based, but if disputes did arise, then that would be a matter that would be taken up by our litigation department. I also did some property finance work. Anyway, the career of a solicitor is pretty well defined, working for a law firm or possibly in-house increasingly for a company. And if you know that you want to be a solicitor, or even if you're not sure, it's a really good idea to look for a vacation scheme to give you work experience, and our careers service can help with that. In fact, I did a vacation scheme with a firm called Nabarro Nathanson, and from that I realized that I definitely did want to be a solicitor. Okay, so I've talked about the current route to becoming a solicitor. The regime is changing with the SQE coming in, and I'll talk a bit more about the SQE shortly. But before I do that, let's just talk about the possibility of becoming a barrister rather than a solicitor. So once you've got your law degree or you've done the conversion course, you would go on and do the bar practice course, the BPC. And once you've completed the bar practice course, you will be a pupil and you'll be called to the bar. And then from there, most pupils will go on to do their one-year pupillage by taking up 2 6-month pupillages with a set of chambers, and that's to obtain necessary skills and experience in order to obtain a tenancy, that is a permanent position with a set of barristers' chambers. Now, barristers are self-employed, so very different to the position for solicitors, and it can take a while to establish yourself and provide yourself with a regular income, but being a barrister does give you a lot of independence, and if you're quick on your feet and love advocacy, then a lot of excitement as well, although less client contact than you would have as a solicitor. Let's move to the next slide, please, which deals with the SQE. So the SQE is really going to affect those who want to become solicitors rather than barristers. And the SQE really kicks in for those who are starting their path to becoming a lawyer after, or from, I should say, the 1st of September 2021. Okay, so SQE not relevant to would-be barristers. I think the key point to note is that if you've already started down the LPC route before the 1st of September 2021, for example, you have paid a deposit, for example, you've accepted an offer, then you will continue with the LPC. And in fact, if you've started your legal studies before the 1st of September 2021, you will be allowed to continue with the current route through the LPC and training contract. So that would include if you've started on the GDL, an MA Law conversion course, or an LLB, but you have the option, if you prefer, of going down the new SQE route, SQE Solicitors Qualifying Exam route. Now, to be honest, when we have asked law firms, particularly the large law firms, how they feel about SQE, they're not jumping ship to the SQE yet. So they're advising their trainees or potential trainees who have already started their legal studies to continue on the current route. And they're going to see how things pan out over the next couple of years. And this year, we are offering a GDL which starts in August 2021 to enable as many students who want to bring themselves within the current LPC route. Okay, and I imagine that the LPC is going to be around for at least the next 5 years. Some say it will be around until about 2032, but I don't think you'll be looking that far ahead. Next slide, please. So with the SQE, this Solicitors Qualifying Exam, it really provides, or the aim is for it to provide more flexibility in terms of study. Also, it allows those who are graduates, whether from a law discipline, a non-law discipline, to go down the SQE route. It's also open, for example, to solicitor apprentices, as well as foreign qualified lawyers. There are basically 2 sets of exams. SQE1 will cover functioning legal knowledge. So basically, it will provide you with the foundations of law and cover much of what's covered through stage 1 of the current LPC in very broad terms. SQE2, the second set of exams, will be more skills-based, more detailed, more intense. Okay, I'm not really going to say much about the exam process other than for SQE1, much of the exam process is multiple choice question based, although there is a written exam too. SQE2 comprises quite a lot of assessments. I think there will be around 10 assessments, okay, including oral as well as written assessments, a lot of those skills based. Okay. The university will provide SQE1 and SQE2 courses, but if we move to the next slide, in fact, let's go to slide 8, the one beyond that. Most of the law firms are saying that they don't really think that just doing SQE1 and SQE2 is likely to be enough. So the University of Law is actually providing a number of options for study. And for example, you can do a law conversion option, effectively a postgraduate diploma in law or an MA in law with SQE prep, if you like, SQE add-ons. Okay, I did mention that as part of the new regime, following, well, alongside doing the SQE1 and SQE2 exams, you will also need to complete a minimum of 2 years qualifying work experience. And another role of the new training regime is that there's more flexibility in how you complete that training. So the work experience, the qualifying work experience, could be obtained before, during, or after completion of SQE1 and SQE2 exams, although we anticipate that most students would not start their qualifying work experience until they have at least completed the SQE1 exams. It is possible under the new regime to get your qualifying work experience from up to 4 different legal employers, and legal employer is pretty broadly defined, so there could be an element of pro bono experience included in that qualifying work experience as well. Do I want to say much more on SQE? Probably not for now, other than if you want more information on the SQE, please visit our website or the SRA website. Let's move to slide 9, please. Solicitor or barrister. So you're probably already wondering, well, which of these routes do I want to go down? And one of the things that I have alluded to is that most of a barrister's work will be conducted through representation of clients in court, whereas most of the solicitor's work will be office-based, and they will have more contact with the clients. That was certainly my experience. Next slide, please. So we know that when we talk about a lawyer, it's a generic term for a barrister, solicitor, or judge. And as this slide says, there are around 176,000 lawyers in the UK. 90% of them, so about 160,000, are solicitors, with 10% comprising barristers, and a very small number of those barristers being QCs or silks, so Queen's Counsellors or silks, the top ranking barristers. Next slide, please. Probably worth putting into context what the barrister or solicitor does. So in a criminal context, imagine that you're unfortunate enough to be arrested and taken to a police station. Your first contact with a legal professional is likely to be with a solicitor who will come to the police station, advise you on your rights, and sit in on any police interview and make interventions on your behalf. Now, your case may proceed to an initial court hearing, for example, at the magistrate's court, and the solicitor may well represent you at that stage, although it's very common in practice to have a barrister represent you from this stage. And if the matter proceeds to full trial, then the solicitor would instruct a barrister to represent you in the criminal proceedings. So it's the solicitor who has the, if you like, ongoing contact with the client, and the barrister who is representing the client in court proceedings. And quite often the barrister will receive instructions to represent the client at very short notice. So they need to be able to absorb information quickly and think quickly on their feet. I have to say, I would not be cut out for being a barrister. I know my limitations. Next slide, please. So what about in a civil context? Well, I've already mentioned that as a solicitor, most of my work was transaction-based, so advising banks and companies on various matters, including negotiating and drafting documentation on behalf of clients, and where I was acting for banks, for example, advising on the best security packages to take, where they were making loans to ensure they got fully repaid, as well as ensuring that security over the borrower's assets was watertight and good against the world. And I'm pleased to say that for the transactions I worked on, there were very few instances where once I had done my work, the matter ended up as a dispute. But there would be instances where the borrower ran into financial difficulties and the bank would need to recover. Maybe the client was refusing to pay up. So matters were getting adversarial. And this is the point where I would have turned over the file to the firm's litigation department with a view to resolving the matter as quickly as possible. But sometimes the litigation department would need to instruct a barrister for further advice or a legal opinion on the strength of our client's case, and maybe the strength of the other side's case in determining whether it would be better to settle the dispute or to proceed to litigation. And clearly, if we did proceed to litigation, the barrister that we instructed would be representing the client in proceedings. Okay, next slide, please. So just to wrap up on key distinctions between barristers and solicitors, we know that barristers are self-employed and they work out of chambers, whereas solicitors will work for law firms or in-house. Most solicitors are self-employed. Let's move to the next slide, where I'm going to talk a little bit about our BPC, so our bar practice course, if your intention is to become a barrister. Next slide, please. So the first thing I want to say about the BPC is that it will enhance your academic knowledge so that you can apply it in a practical context. But as with all our courses, certainly our legal practice and bar practice course, our aim is to develop your practical lawyer skills. What we want you to be doing is thinking like a lawyer, to understand how, for example, judges think. And all of our tutors on the BPC have practiced as barristers or solicitors with advocacy experience, so they will be bringing all of that experience into the classroom. The learning is through a number of modes, including face-to-face teaching, where you'll be supervised by such a lawyer. Okay, so they'll facilitate your learning. You will work in groups with colleagues. You will also learn online independently, which gives you flexibility in study. And we also have sign-up learning and revision tools with multiple choice questions to help you and us monitor and review your progress. Okay, and there are other learning facilities available, for example, videos, online lectures. Okay, you'll be trained in the skill of advocacy so that you are able to present. So you will be working before real barristers and real judges through mock trials and also through our mooting competitions, and we'll provide you with all the materials that you require for the course. I think we should move to the next slide at this point, please. So in terms of what you'll study on the BPC, well, we actually need to move to the next slide. In very broad terms, you will acquire substantive knowledge in criminal and civil litigation. So in criminal and civil litigation, and you will acquire skills-based knowledge too. Breaking this down into the core criminal module, in terms of substantive knowledge, you will learn criminal litigation, evidence and sentencing. What else? Oh yes, key skills. Drafting. That drafting would include, well, let's just think about this. Yeah, so you might be, for example, drafting and amending indictments or grounds for appeal against sentencing or conviction. Drafting defenses, drafting witness notices. Okay, opinion writing. With opinion writing, key skill is analysis of a client's case. This is also linked to doing legal research to determine the merits of the case and being able to advise on the merits of the case. Conferencing skills, again, very important interpersonal skills. This is where you sit down with a client and you obtain information from them through appropriate interviewing technique. Okay, you provide clear and accurate advice. So clearly preparation and appropriate structure are important for conferences, and very important, of course, criminal advocacy. What about with the civil? Next slide, please. What about with the core civil litigation module? Here you will be advising on, you'll learn about practice and procedure for civil litigation, dealing with evidence, resolution of disputes before the matter gets to court. Again, opinion writing, drafting, civil advocacy skills are all very important. Okay, next slide, please. I've mentioned that you'll be writing opinions, and clearly, in order to write legal opinions, you will need to do legal research, and you will have workshops in how to conduct legal research. Professional ethics is pervasive and also separately assessed. Clearly, you will need to be aware of the ins and outs of the bar handbook, the code of conduct, ethics at the bar, and also ethical issues arising between barrister and client. Next slide, please. So it is possible to, at no additional cost, obtain a BPC LLM, and there are 3 routes or options to obtaining the LLL add-on as indicated in this slide. So one of the options is through a real-life experience through our pro bono clinics. So that would involve obtaining experience in advising, managing, and representing clients on a variety of legal cases. An alternative route is through the option modules. In other words, what you can do is to increase your knowledge of specific, if you like, specialist legal practice areas in which you have an interest, and you will need to sit exams in those modules once you finish the BPC, the bar practice course. And the third option is to write a dissertation on a specialist area, and you might well want to do this if you're intending to focus on a key area and you want to make yourself attractive to particular sets of chambers when you're applying for pupilages and a tenancy. That finishes my review of the BPC, the bar practice course. I'm now going to say a little bit about our legal practice courses. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'll say a little bit about our legal practice courses. In fact, I want to move into the slide which follows that. Okay, so there are a number of options available to you. You could either do the legal practice course, so that's the straight legal practice course where you'd end up with a postgraduate diploma in professional legal practice. Alternatively, and at no extra cost, you could add on the master's element by either doing the MSc in Law, Business and Management, or the LPC LLM in professional legal practice. Now, whichever of those 3 routes you choose to go down, you will be doing the core LPC, which comprises, firstly, core modules in your first term, which cover business law and practice, which I teach, real estate, and dispute resolution, criminal and civil dispute resolution. And that will be followed by an electives term in which you choose to study 3 out of a possible 15 electives, depending on availability. And I'll say more about the electives shortly. And then if you want to obtain the LPC MSc, you'll study an extra module, Law and Business, which is really about improving your commercial awareness of companies, if you like, or corporate law. And at the end of completing that module, you will do what's known as a case study project or case study report in one of a number of defined areas. If alternatively you decide to go down the LPC LLM route, then your extra module will either be doing the law and business module or choosing to do a fourth elective. And then on top of that, you will do a professional practice research report, again, in a defined area. Okay. Do I want to say much more here? Not really, no. I have mentioned, however, that whichever of these routes you decide to go down, it is possible to study the LPC either full-time over 1 year or accelerated, which is, I think, done in 6 months, or part-time over 2 years. Clearly, you'd need to check the website for availability. Okay, good. I'm not going to say a great deal about assessment, but I do want to say or reiterate that our courses are that's our LPC courses, are very much client and business focused, because law firms have come back to us over the years and said that one of the things that they want more of from their trainees is commercial awareness, a clear understanding that when working for clients, the advice you give really needs to be tailored to the client's needs. Okay, so you can see why you are taught on the LPC by people who are practicing lawyers or have been practicing lawyers. Okay, so we're all qualified lawyers. Good. And I guess the key point I want to make is that when you're advising a client, yes, you've got this huge body of law in front of you, but a common error of trainees is to think that clients want an essay-style answer, when in fact what clients want to know is, how does the law affect me? What's the practical solution to my problem? Now, a lot of our students say, well, I don't want to, I shouldn't have to study business law because I'm going to be a family lawyer. But actually, all the skills you learn on the LPC are transferable. And if you were a family lawyer, you'd have to have an awareness of a business because you might be acting for a client whose spouse owns a business. You'd need to understand how that business operates, as well as to interpret accounts as part of reaching a divorce settlement. If you're doing employment law, just acting for employees, you still need to understand what the drivers are for employers. Also, what employers are thinking, what their strategy is going to be, where, for example, they are getting rid of an employee. And ultimately, whoever you work for is going to be a business. So your law firm, for example, or the company you practice in is a business. Okay, good. In terms of learning on the LPC, most of your learning, excuse me, most of your face-to-face learning will be through 2-hour workshops, which will be tutor-led or tutor-facilitated, and in which you will work in groups of around 20 to look at practical problems, so real-life problems, and come up with practical procedures and solutions for addressing client needs. And our assessments reflect reality. Our assessments are based on real life scenarios. A lot of our assessments are in fact open book to reflect practice. In other words, you're not expected to have all knowledge at your fingertips, but some assessments are open book to reflect the fact that in practice, you have to have certain knowledge at your fingertips. All the facilities you need are available to you. So, for example, all the books, databases, facilities you'd expect of a modern business school are available to you within the course fees. Let's move to electives. Next slide, please. So I've mentioned that there are 15 electives to choose from, and I probably won't say a great deal about electives, but moving to the next slide, the electives you choose will depend on the area of practice you intend to go down. So, for example, you might go down the private client route if you want to be a family lawyer dealing with, for example, divorces, or an immigration lawyer, or a criminal lawyer, or even if you want to advise wealthy clients on how to arrange their affairs to reduce tax liability, or, for example, to set up trusts for their children. Next slide, please. So the commercial route, if you're going to a medium-sized commercial firm where you might be doing commercial litigation, for example, or employment law, or commercial real estate, then these are the sorts of options that you might consider. Yeah? Insurance, intellectual property, I'd say that they are pretty niche areas. Next slide. For me, I went down the corporate route, and if you were going to a Magic Circle or Silver Circle firm, the sort of electives you do would certainly comprise at least one or two of banking and debt finance, mergers and acquisitions. For example, if you're interested in doing M&A work, companies acquiring other businesses or shares in other companies, as well as public companies advising large companies on raising finance through issuing shares. Moving to the next slide, we also run a range of postgraduate master's courses, and I'm not going to go through them, but the next slide and the one after that illustrate the wide range of master's courses which are available. Can we move to slide 30, please? Slide 30. So we also offer a master's in legal technology, as well as a postgraduate diploma and postgraduate certificate in legal technology, if you so wish. And I think the key thing here is that legal technology is embedded in all of our programs. Okay, so all of our programs, particularly LLMs, the MA, the postgraduate diploma programs, and MSc programs. Okay, good. And the MSc in legal technology, as well as the diploma and certificate, are modular based. And if we turn to slide 31, you've got some indication of the modules or options which are available to you. Okay, I'm actually starting to wrap up now. So moving to slide 32, in determining whether to go down the BPC, LPC, LLM route, well, that's clearly up to you. And there is more information on our website to help you choose. And the next slide on career prospects really makes the point that the University of Law is not just focused on training those who want to become solicitors or barristers, we recognize that a lot of our students actually go down other routes. And this slide indicates those routes. We are here to support all professions and all of our students, irrespective of the career path they decide to take. Okay. Moving to the next slide, I've alluded to some of the support we provide. When you study with us, clearly you will have subject tutors, and we operate an open door policy. Should you need to ask tutors questions, you'll be assigned a personal tutor to look after your personal or pastoral welfare. We also have excellent counselling, welfare teams, as well as a studies support team to address any learning needs that you have. Moving to the next slide, clearly we have a very, very good careers service, which offers, for example, training in CV, application, cover letter writing, practice for interviews, panels, assessments, and so on. So we run lots of workshops through our employability and career service, both face-to-face and virtually. Okay, and in fact, the next slide outlines a lot of the employability support which is available to you once you accept a place on the on any of our courses, frankly, and that support is available to you for up to 18 months after you complete your studies with us. Dealing with the next slide, it's really just to say that there's a lot more information on the university and our courses on the university website. Finally, I would like to thank you for bearing with me on what has been a rather long delivery. So I understand now we have a Q&A, do we?
Yes, thank you very much, Anthony. It's very informative.
Maybe too informative.
Well, that's very detailed. I think we are now having one question here. What's the difference between SQE and the LPC?
Okay, so I think the key difference with the SQE and the LPC is that with the LPC, you would have either done a law degree or a non-law degree followed by a conversion course, then moved on to the legal practice course, and you'd have followed that up with a 2-year training contract. The SQE is something that you could actually embark on straight away without having done any legal studies whatsoever, although most law firms would not advise that, because the SQE alone probably won't give you sufficient grounding for legal practice. With the SQE, the bare minimum is that you sit 2 sets of exams, and those are centralized exams. So they are effectively set by the SRA or the SRA's specialist provider. You have to successfully complete the first set of exams, SQE1, before you do the second set of exams, SQE2. But one of the key differences now is that you can actually get your qualifying work experience at any stage. So you could actually start it before you've even commenced SQE1 or SQE2, although we envisage most people would need to have done SQE1 before law firms are prepared to take them on. Of course, what we already have now and will have increasingly is students who are doing apprenticeships. So they're conducting their training through a law firm and at the same time maybe conducting their SQE1 and SQE studies. Okay.
Understood. Thank you. And there's one more question. Can I go to LLM directly without a bachelor degree in law? So basically, transfer the topic, maybe the student graduate from a bachelor degree in business, for example, can they apply for LLM?
I think you can these days, yeah.
Ron, any comment on this?
Yeah, I think I will add some entry requirement. No, you don't need law degree to apply LLM. We will have 2 weeks introduction course before the actual course start. So for non-law degree graduate, those are compulsory for you to have some basic legal knowledge before you start LLM course. You don't need a pre-master.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
I just want to end up one more questions from myself, because sometimes we do have students, they study LLM in some university without a bachelor degree background. I mean, they might study business in bachelor degree and then they study LLM in the UK. Can they apply for the LPC directly without a bachelor degree of law?
I will explain. For the LLM, it doesn't cover the 7 core modules. So in order to apply LPC, admissions will see the 7 foundation legal knowledge has been taught during your past degree. I know for most LLM courses, it doesn't cover. So it depends on the course. But according to my knowledge, only MA Law cover those 7 core modules instead of LLM. So we have many second master applicants. They completed the LLM and found they cannot go on to the practice route, and they will take MA Law with the university law. Anthony, do you have anything?
I don't know. That was pretty comprehensive.
Yeah, I think some students, they might have a very firm background from the bachelor degree, but some of them, they might change the degree after they graduate from the bachelor, but only doing the LLM. As Ron just mentioned, if the students can do LLM directly without a bachelor degree in law, we might have this kind of inquiries. And so that's why I'm asking about this. So just an end up question. Right, let's come back to the question again. Is it the duration of BPC same as LPC, which is 1 year for full-time?
Yeah, 1 year full-time, 2 years part-time, I think, yeah.
Understood.
I don't actually teach on the BPC, but yes, that's my understanding.
Yeah, and also because we are on the Facebook Live, we actually have one question from a Vietnamese student. The students asking, and if I study law in UK, do you think it will be difficult to find a job in Vietnam?
To find a job?
In Vietnam. So back when, after graduation, is it difficult for them to go back to work, go back to their home country?
Well, that's probably not a question for me to answer, but I do know that we have had a lot of students who have studied at the University of Law and then returned to their home countries, including Hong Kong, and gained employment. But of course, I am not in a position to advise on the local employment market.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Anthony. Any idea about the jobs overseas, Ron? Do you have any idea for your alumni when they graduate, go back to the home country?
It depends on the country. For Vietnam, to be honest, I'm not quite sure. So I will double check with our employability team. For Hong Kong, students can return back to Hong Kong to practice as a foreign lawyer. And after 3 years of work experience, and then they will take the local test to be qualified to practice Hong Kong law. For mainland China, for example, students, they still need to take the national exam, similar with the UK version of SQE to be qualified. So many students from China mainland, they will prefer to study ML law or GDL. So they can take the foreign cases while they are already a registered solicitor or lawyer back in China. And for students from Malaysia, if they take BPC course, then they take the bar exam back in their own country. They will be qualified as the same route with the home student. So it depends on the regions. So for Vietnam, I will do more research and hopefully I will get back to you as soon as possible.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you very much. I think we answered all the questions so far. Yeah, and also it's the time to end up our presentations today. Right, okay, so let's as a summary. Anthony, what kind of students do you want, basically? So what's the basic knowledge or basic information you want students to become your student?
Is that when they come to the LPC or generally?
As a general. So what kind of students is your favorite one?
My favorite students are, I think they're enthusiastic, they're hardworking, they are engaged. I think the main thing for me is I don't expect students to know everything. I don't mind if students get things wrong, because I know from my own experience that I got a lot wrong as a student, but when I got things wrong, I didn't forget them when I got the correct answer. So it's very much about putting yourself out there, giving it your best, because ultimately what you put into your studies will improve your skills as a lawyer and will improve your skills as a lawyer and will certainly mean that you are more likely to be successful on the courses, so in exams, for example, in assessments, and more likely to be successful when you go out into the world.
Thank you very much, Anthony.
Be fearless.
So, yeah, so if you are those type of the students, Anthony is waiting for you in University of Law. Right, okay, so that's it for today. Thank you all very much to join us. And yeah, we are looking forward to receiving your application to the University of Law. Thank you all.
And I'd like to say thank you to all of those who attended today. Thank you to Angela and Ron. Do take care.
Thank you. Bye
Very
bye.
much. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.